Welcome back, one and all, not only to another day here at the Damage Report, but a whole new week. A week that starts, as so many do, with Monday, which many have begun to call the best damn day of the week. Not because of TDR necessarily or me, but mostly because of Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
I'll take the mostly credit for it, John Iadarola. Hey, you know what? Your audience is very smart. They pick up on it quick, bro. It's the best damn day of the week. It starts your week off. I mean, what else you gonna do? Cry about it or something?
Are people crying? I don't know. I'm sure we'll come up with some reasons to cry potentially. It is the Damage Report. That's kind of what we do. But we've got some interesting news to talk about. We've got some pop culture news. We got sports news. We got Mike Johnson pretending to care about stuff. We got a lot of stuff to discuss. And I know that Jayar is fresh off of a watch party. How's the watch party going? It just passed its 1-year anniversary recently.
Yeah, end of June, I believe it was like the 27th. Bro, we're into our 2nd year of the watch party live.
Season 2.
It streams every day.
Yeah.
It's year 2, bro.
Nice.
It streams every day, just as we come into the TDR now. And look, it's we had a bit of a, I guess it fits more. Watch party is usually for sports, and I talked specifically about what's going on in the world of the World Cup.
Yes. Well, we're going to be doing that in just a minute ourselves, actually. But along the way, we're going to be touching on a lot of different stuff. Not only whatever it was that happened in DC this weekend, that whole thing, the Patriot Front, or was it marching in DC? The Antifa, actually. Karoline Leavitt is back on the job, not like working or anything, but she's drawing a paycheck again and saying stupid stuff. And we got a lot of fun stuff. We're gonna be talking about Taylor Swift at some point. Ron Desantis like desperately wanting you to remember that he's like a thing technically for a little bit longer or whatever. A lot of fun stuff to talk about. And we've got our chats up. Send us your comments or tweets or super chats. We'll respond to as many as we can as we go. And with all that said, JR, are you ready to dive back in to the World Cup?
Let's dive back in, sports guy.
Okay, let's do it. Sports guy.
So I saw the play, and I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete, and I understand sports really well. Red card, I didn't know what the hell a red card was. When I found out, I said, you gotta be kidding. This guy just hands up, okay, your best player is not gonna play next week or in the next game. I said, wow, that's a lot of power, that's terrible.
Okay. If you're a fan of the team, a lot of you are. Good news. Okay, and we'll get to it. But there's a couple things that we gotta touch on. First of all, I know sports. I'm gonna make clear in a moment how little I actually know about this, but I know all of them. And also, I'm a great athlete. You can tell by the physique. And then he didn't know what it was. So have you ever watched it? Like literally ever in your life? You're 103 years old and you don't know what that is? There's versions of it in other sports, but maybe that's not what's important. Maybe what's important is that we have been provided in this moment with a high profile, exciting news story that will make clear how important birthright citizenship is. Because as many people have acknowledged, the player, Flo Balogun, I'm new to the player, I apologize, is a citizen thanks to the marvel, the wonder, the historic reality of birthright citizenship. Not that Trump is going to acknowledge that or anyone else on the right, but it is actually true. Just something to think about as we dive into not only the big sports story of the week, but potentially a big scandal, because there was this red card given to the player. The player is going to sit out a game. Every game is do or die. And so Donald Trump weighs in, as we'll get into. And a lot of people are wondering if this is a good thing. Not necessarily fans of the American team, but around the world, there are some concerns about it. But anyway, the basics of it is that the player was ejected midway through the second half against the Bosnian team. There's a disputed penalty or whatever, where he comes down on his opponent's ankle, causing it to twist awkwardly. After a video review, sent off the field with a red card. Now, look, there are a lot of people other than the president who say this might have been adjudicated poorly. And certainly I am, I'm not unfamiliar with the idea of refs getting things wrong or whatever. So it's possible that it was actually wrong, but it was a consequential thing because it would have resulted in the player not being there for what will be tonight's match against Belgium, a pretty big one. So Trump steps in, not just Trump, but supposedly others in the administration. Howard Lutnick, he's focused on something other than trying to party with Epstein for once. Andrew Giuliani, they dive in to try to get the US Soccer Federation to push for this appeal and to make the appeal go through, even though there's rules against it. Again, the rules don't matter in this particular case. And yesterday, FIFA comes out and says that they are going to reverse that. Not like 100%. There's still going to be like a period where they're going to be watching and could potentially be put back if he were to foul someone again. But what's important is that he can actually play. Now, I guess the question is, JR, like, I think this is almost undoubtedly good politics for Trump, who desperately needs any kind of win right now. Like, if you're a fan of the American team, you're gonna love this. But I think there's a lot of people around the world that are like, well, like, FIFA's all tied in with Trump. They have this relationship. And so the US gets this thing that probably no other team would get. So that maybe kind of sucks from their point of view. And if America were to go on and then win the whole thing, could it potentially be tainted? But really, what does Trump care about that, JR? I mean, all of his elections are weird that he's involved in. All of his wins are corrupt and everything. I don't think he cares about whether there are asterisks next to things. So no, I don't know. What do you make of this?
The number one thing obviously here is Donald Trump wants to have this as a win, right? And he hopes, of course, as many folks who are watching this from our point of view, would like to see the American team go on and win, which we generally don't do, right? So if that does happen, guess, I mean, I'm not sure if you can get this riddle, John. Guess who will take credit for it? Guess who will say the only reason the American team can win is because I'm a sitting president right now, especially.
But maybe he'll be right this time.
Right, because now he gets.
What if this guy like goes wild, scores like 3 goals or something?
Which he's very capable of doing, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, suddenly Donald Trump is the hero to the United States of America, just strictly based off of a World Cup win, right? And that's what he wants, because he needs anything. He's grasping at anything, especially if it comes athletically and in sports and an international sporting competition. This guy really wants to be the one to be like, look, it's me. We can't win unless I'm sitting president. As he talked about saying somehow like the universe lined up and gave him this position and he got rigged in 2020. So therefore he's the president when we have the World Cup and when the Olympics and all these things are happening. The idea he thinks he's got now is America's 250th birthday. I'm here because I'm the greatest American of all time. So if you don't think this guy is angling to claim that he's the reason there's any success from this men's national team, which he won't acknowledge this particular player who he saved with this leading as being a citizen that he normally would have hated and probably will hate right after this whole thing is over. You're not paying attention to who this guy is.
No, 100%. Yeah, to the hate part, and then I'll add a little bit more nuance. So his mother was a British citizen, traveled to New York City while pregnant with him in 2001. An airline prohibited her from flying home, deeming that she was too close to her delivery. So she wasn't like apparently trying to do like, like birth tourism or whatever. She was like trying to get out, but they wouldn't let her. And so she gave birth to him here, remained in New York for 2 months before returning to the UK. Birthright citizenship. So again, hey, what do you know? People from around the world come in here and make America stronger, but they're going to conveniently ignore that, even if he scores 20 goals or whatever. And so I don't know. Look, the head of FIFA put out a statement talking about the conversation with Trump, saying, during our conversation, I explained that there was an ongoing legal process involving FIFA's independent judicial bodies, and that the case would be decided in due course by the competent bodies. He's sort of implying that it didn't matter that Trump talked to him. We're looking into it. We were going to look into it. And again, to what I was saying, a lot of people are saying that it does seem like it was potentially a bad call or a stupid call, especially for it to be so consequential. So like, that's kind of why I don't necessarily matter. I don't care as much about Trump getting involved because it kind of seems like it should have been overturned anyway. And it seems like maybe they were going to overturn it anyway. So maybe that's a good thing. Or whatever, but again, to your point, he's definitely going to claim 100% credit. He's going to claim credit for the individual goals or whatever, which I'm sure he will say he could get if he wanted to. So I guess that's good. I just want to read one other quote from when Trump was doing his little press conference. He says, and we're going to have a full team, and Belgium is going to have a full team. And you know what? if they beat us, then they can be really proud. The other way, if they beat us, we'll say it was, I'd say it was rigged, just like the election was rigged in 2020. Okay, so again, it's not rigged. And he said individually, the ref, I looked into him. I don't like his background, very suspicious. No, you didn't. You lying grub, you. You didn't look into nothing. You don't know anything about him. Sometimes people just make bad decisions. And you know how I know that? Because like 70 million people made a really bad one in 2024, okay? Sometimes it just happens. It's not always a conspiracy necessarily. Anyway, now if the US goes on to just lose epically later today, this will be kind of a moot point, I guess, but I don't know, maybe history will be made. Maybe he'll get another peace prize.
But it's odd though, John, yeah. By the way, let's not forget what FIFA gave him some fake prize, and then they also let him stand on stage with another team that won a championship, and then he was raising their trophy. All that was happening. And he says he's gonna keep the awards because, again, he's Donald Trump. But think about it. He wants to look into the ref, or he says he looked into the ref, which I mentioned the same thing earlier. You really think this guy looked into the ref when he doesn't know what a red card is? So he looked into a ref and his entire background and saw some questionable things, but didn't look into what a red card is, when that takes a simple Google search in case you didn't know anything. But also, the other thing is FIFA has this baked into their rules. Something else I didn't know until I started talking about this, where they can suspend or postpone these kinds of punishments for these types of things. And it's strictly, from what I can see, from the purpose of having as many of the top-notch, best-known, well-known, better players on the field at a time. They did it with Cristiano Ronaldo for this same World Cup, but it was for a qualifying match against Ireland when he received a red card. We're supposed to get a 3-game suspension. That third one would have been the opener for the World Cup. And they said, yeah, let's not do that one. So they have a history. Look, they even have some ground to stand on. FIFA does, but like, we do this whenever we want to, bro. And they kind of do. But Donald Trump had to stick his head into this whole thing and say, me too, let me lean on you guys to do this. They were probably gonna do it anyway, because of the questionable nature of the call and all that too. But now he's tainting any potential success because now he's got to get involved.
Yeah, I don't think he looked into him. I don't think he watched the foul. I just don't. Anyway, okay, well, we're gonna see what happens later on today. Let's talk about what happened this weekend, starting with this.
Then on July 4th, we will have the greatest show of all on the National Mall. Your favorite president will be speaking. So please show up. Because if we have 2 empty seats, you know what's gonna happen? The fake news is gonna say he didn't fill out the arena.
Update, he didn't fill out the arena. And I checked, it wasn't 2 empty seats. Now, he's gonna claim biggest thing ever. Although interestingly, he came out with an estimate of what the crowd ended up being on the 4th of July. And even his ridiculous overestimate would not be the biggest crowd ever. So let's talk through the numbers. He said that there was 422,000 people there at 7:05. Not 400,000, 422,000. He counted them, but then the weather, the bad weather. And so they said it was gonna be canceled and they sent people away, and then he jumped in to bring them back. And that's when 150,000 people returned or whatever, and it's bigger than blah, 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 blah. So both of those numbers are BS. I'm not even saying that one of them isn't necessarily true. He just has nothing specifically to base that on. He's just saying that's what it is. I haven't been able to find any independent, even estimate of how many people were actually there, either initially or that returned. But regardless, even if you accept his 422,000 thing, which I don't know why you would, that would not be the biggest party ever. At the bicentennial back in 1976, when there were only like 1 million people in America, 500,000 people did show up to that. So it would not be the biggest thing. Now look, I saw photos of the event. For him, it was a fine crowd, I think. For him, especially considering how that event has been going over the past week, where they couldn't scrape together like 7 people to go to a concert, it did pretty well. But pretty well, if based in reality, has never been and will never be enough for Donald Trump. He always has to exaggerate. He always has to overly brag. I find it to be utterly pathetic. But maybe more important than the crowd, big or small, that was there, is what he chose to do with this big event. Now, any other president would have been unifying and all that. Let's see how he did.
America will never be a communist country. Won't happen. Communism is a loser, and it always will be. The communist system is the opposite of the American system, and the communist system has never worked. And all these talks from the communists, they haven't got a chance. Not even a chance. We don't want communists in our country. As our Declaration of Independence tells us, we are all made in the image of one Almighty God. And a communist will never say that.
Well, but if they did, they also would be wrong because that's not in the document. You just made that up. Although in Trump's defense, he's never read it. So I don't know why we would expect that he would know what's in there. So this is the 250th anniversary, or birthday or whatever they're saying for our country. And he didn't really talk about our country. He's talked about the DSA. That was pretty much it, because he's not interested in our country. He's scared right now of the midterms. He's scared that there are these new candidates who are coming out with big ideas, or slightly more aggressive, more willing to fight, an actual shake up to the Democratic Party status quo. And that fear just suffused his speech. And JR, I just don't think, how old is this message and the receiving audience supposed to be? Like, you saw that one guy who was like cheesing at the camera when he was being told about the threat of communism. You sad sack, dude. Who cares about that? Young Americans haven't been failed by communism. They haven't even been born alive for communism. Capitalism has failed them. Donald Trump has failed them and continues to. I just don't see how this could be a good campaign message. But what do you
we've had a lot more interactions with capitalism and fascism in this country, and we've just seen it constantly. Also, a little bit of socialism sprinkled in there. I'm not sure if they understand the socialist policies that are baked into this country's normalcies and agencies, but they never want to talk about that either. But obviously, this whole thing was another Trump rally. One of the folks who was disappointed about being kicked out through the thunderstorms at one point said this is like his 100th, or I don't know, he's been through a ridiculous number of Trump rallies. He saw it as a Trump rally. That's the way he characterized it. That's all this was, more of the same. So as they keep talking about the unity and America 250 and all this other stuff, and the scams that went into them siphoning money off the top from all of these things, as they have a crumbling fake Arc de Trump hanging out there. This actually was, as you pointed out, and I agree, I was like, bro, he could have celebrated this. He actually had people there. And instead he has to go and talk about 422,000. Because before there was 422 for the whole week and stuff building up to it. So now you can easily say, look, we filled enough seats. Look, we have a crowd. You can even celebrate the amount of folks that did decide to show up before they got run off and run back in. But he can't take any of this. And I also mentioned this earlier too. Events get rained out. Events have heat issues. Events also have thunderstorms that roll into areas. And they can be organized by, I don't care what political leaning group that there is. But you may not hear about it to this extent, because those political leaning groups that aren't associated under Donald Trump probably didn't make a big deal about it. Every little thing to try and celebrate and promote and prop up this guy as some kind of a godlike figure, that everything he touches is perfection. Everyone shows up, biggest crowd ever. And then that makes people look and go, actually, you know what? It kind of sucked. If you shut up, or if you just have an event get postponed or canceled from weather, no one's gonna blame you because you can't control that. But then when you keep talking about how you can control it all, people are gonna say, what now, loser? What now?
Yeah, it was strange too that he was able to do the event, because I was told that he needs to be in a fortified ballroom to be able to do a public event. It's weird that he can just go to Mount Rushmore, he can stand outside. So weird how that works out. I don't understand that. Anyway, I look, I didn't listen to the speech because who the hell cares? It's just that guy went to 100 of his rallies. He's heard 300 words collectively across all those speeches. It's the same crap. It's just lies, and it's I just think about what if it had been Obama who had been president for the 250th, the speech that he would have given, it probably would have been quite inspiring. Not to say that he's a perfect president or whatever, but it is actually an opportunity, and it's an opportunity that, thanks to Donald Trump being president, has been wasted. Okay, with that said, let's turn to one more topic. Don't believe anyone that says nobody was excited to come to DC for Donald Trump's festivities. I know that some of his most enthusiastic fans showed up. You can actually see them in this clip. Yeah, right there. That's the khaki clad, dorky ass. Least my daughter marches to her bedroom at night with more enthusiasm and gusto than those loser white supremacist fascists in Patriot Front are able to do. And they should be super excited. They've got their president in office. But anyway, they were there scaring people, I guess. I don't think you really need to be scared of these people. They're so like the courage of their convictions is such that they have to cover their face, even though I was told that they would suffocate if they had to put a mask over their face. But anyway, what I love about this, the Patriot Front is marching. The white supremacists, the neo-Nazis are on the march. Is that we've been hearing all about how, the radical left is taking over. Zoran Mamdani, oh no, Kiros. And then meanwhile, you have this like fascist militia or whatever. And the right, of course, is going to ignore it or give the dumbest take you've ever heard. And let's start with the latter. Mike Lee says, Patriot Front, brought to you by leftists who don't know that patriots don't wear masks. Yeah, it's not freaking leftists, man. That's so goddamn pathetic. I love that like every single time they get a mob together, they're like, oh, it's actually the leftists. And also, I think it's awesome. I love them. They're great. Release them from prison, but it was the leftists that did it. That doesn't make any sense. He also says Democrats need to stop reminding of America of their racist history. I literally don't even know what point he thinks he's making there. This is one of your mobs, one of your like white supremacist, like white nationalist mobs. It's like go get control of them. If you don't like them marching, then do something about it. But he has nothing to say against them. Neither does Donald Trump. Laura Ingram says, I call fake. Looks more like Antifa in costume. No one should be allowed to cover their faces. So first of all, wait, so you agree that nobody should cover their faces, so ICE shouldn't cover their faces? Or are you still gonna make a few exceptions? And also, look at the view on liberty there. A few years ago, she would say nobody should be forced to cover their faces. Now she's saying nobody should be able to. Literally nobody should be able to wear masks or whatever. No, they're wearing masks because they know how pathetic they look. And they want to feel like they're part of the Nazis, but also they don't want to lose their job. Oh, that would suck. So they cover up their face. What do you mean it looks like Antifa in costume? What would that be? A person in costume? How would white people? That's your side. Like you guys are so enthusiastic about that. Take ownership of your dudes. So anyway, JR, it's pathetic. I saw we can't show the photo, but like them on public transit, which I guess they do appreciate, it turns out, scaring people or whatever. These guys are so utterly contemptible, but what do you think?
This is, as you mentioned, this is always the way this goes. And it's a perfect question. When Laura Ingram posted that, Mike Lee went on like 3 different posts to try and claim somehow that these Patriot Front guys are Antifa in costume. What identifiable factors, what did you see, Laura Ingram, that would tell you that these is Antifa in costume? I mean, you know better. When people like to tell you that they know something, keep asking them questions because they're calling themselves the experts on this particular topic. What do you see, Laura Ingram? Can you, hey, enlighten me? Teach me on what you know about what Antifa looks like dressed up like Patriot Front. Does Patriot Front not exist? Is this made up by them? Have they not shown up at other events and walk around and put their faces in front of their live streams to their white nationalist audiences who respond on those live streams? It's weird how white nationalists keep getting fooled by Antifa types. They keep dressing up like they're heroes who keep doing these things, jumping in the back of U-Hauls and running into cities to try and intimidate folks, but they're too busy being lame to really figure the whole thing out.
Yeah.
But the other thing about this whole thing is, Laura Ingram posted that when she said she calls it fake. And the video that she put underneath it that she was reposting was from a different event with the same Patriot Front group in DC standing in front of the Washington Monument, and there was snow on the ground behind them. They're wearing like, scullies to cover because it was cold outside because it was January of 2025 when they were running around before. She couldn't even take the time to get the actual footage from the 4th of July weekend to claim that it was Antifa because it was on a lazy post of propaganda. She's like, here, let me post some propaganda so I can check in and get my check as usual. And who cares which video I post? Because who cares what I'm saying? I'm here to lie.
Yeah, it's so pathetic. Again, like hopefully they won't do anything, but like the reason they go down is they want to remind Donald Trump that like, hey, next time we'll be here, the 3%ers, the militias or whatever, stand back and stand by. We're still around. I don't know what you could like count on them to do with their little marching or whatever. Like, don't try to imply you're brave when you're covering your face in that way, dude. Like, just don't do it. But anyway, the whole movement is utterly pathetic. And I love that, like, they're marching in DC as Donald Trump tries to get us terrified of like Zoran Mamdani or something in his speech. There are extremists in this country. They're not in the DSA. Anyway, let's take our first break. Lots more to get to after this.
Hey, John, who they taking their country back from? Last I heard, they're running this place.
Yeah, you probably couldn't hear in the transition, but like, yeah, we gotta take our country back. Like, you guys have everything. Like, what do you want? If you're still really frustrated about the way things are going, and hey, Biden has been president like 600 days, okay? Haven't you guys control most of the state legislatures? You have every branch of government. The failures are yours, you own them, okay? Anyway, let's jump into some comments, see what's going on out there. By the way, Jayar, have you been watching any World Cup?
Yeah, there's decent amount. I haven't watched every match, obviously. Who has time for that, bro? But yeah,
I watched a little bit of last night, the Mexico England, a little bit.
Yeah, if I'd have known, I would have. I didn't. I was doing something stupid like playing video games. I was doing nothing. I would have rather watched it.
What game you playing these days?
I still play 2K. It's NBA 2K. It's all I play. That is until the new Grand Theft Auto comes out. Then I'm gonna be deep into that. I'm gonna waste 100 on that. I will.
I do want to play that. Yeah,
I will waste it.
That's the next one for me. Anyway, I've only watched a tiny little bit. It's just not really my thing. I'm glad that everybody's having fun. I'm super excited for you or whatever. But I don't really care.
It's starting to take more time from this. But listen, John, soccer I don't watch. Soccer I generally don't like, watch and understand the strategy of much. I know obviously everything how the game goes. But if you watch the World Cup, which I do every 4 years, the strategy is pretty apparent for teams in the way they're looking to score. So people may think it's boring or it's back and forth, but listen, if you watch, like it's enlightening, it's fun, it's entertaining, but I can't watch it on a regular basis. I still don't watch any of the club stuff or any of that.
I don't hate it. I mean, I used to go to Angel City matches quite a bit. And I would, again, like if I had a ticket, I'd go to the World Cup. I'm not paying $1,000 for a ticket or whatever. Anyway, yeah, I'm in a kind of a down period in sports because the Sparks aren't performing well. I got some injured players, and I was a little bit mediocre in golf this weekend. It's just, I think Jock John might be going away, actually.
You're in a slump, bro.
I did okay. It's just, I don't know. I got some swing issues I got to work out. Anyway, Scoopster says, corruption meets corruption. Trump and FIFA are made for each other, definitely. Dragonfart says, I wonder if Trumpy threatened FIFA to deport a couple of Belgians if it wasn't rescinded. Who knows? Knuckle Dragon says, Trump calls us communists, then pulls the red card. Make it make sense. That's funny. Care for one another says, it's crazy. Trump knows how to post on social media, but somehow you can tell he's never Googled anything in his life. Well, to Google something, you would have to acknowledge, at least internally, that you don't have the answer and you'd like to have it. And you need to turn to, some sort of expert or authority or whatever. What I found most fascinating about the red card thing was that he said, I've never heard of a red card. He always says, nobody's ever heard of blank. He just yesterday said, nobody's ever heard of the Strait of Hormuz before. Like, that's how he tells you he didn't know a thing. He was actually willing to admit it in this particular case. He probably shouldn't have if he's trying to pitch himself as some sort of sports expert or whatever. Anyway, we have the results of the A block poll. I love that we're doing this now. The favorite part of the A block was the third part. It was the Nazi March hypocrisy. I'm really shocked by that, actually. The speech was second, World Cup third. It's weird. I haven't yet drawn in the jock audience I've been working so hard to accrue over the past couple of years. It's weird.
You got too many nerds in this place, bro.
I know, all you nerds with your democracy and whatever. Anyway, Kelly K, 04W, member for 23 months, says, nothing says alpha male quite like khaki pants. Got what they wanted, went viral, but more for the fact that they sweat through their pants or missed a pee break. That's pretty funny.
Shout out to my early nerds from the watch party. They're there every time.
Okay, everybody, thank you for being here. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Definitely watch live sometime. You can hear us talk about khaki pants in the social break, which I think are fine individually. No problem with khaki pants. I don't normally wear them, no problem with them. But like 80 people marching in them, there's something strange about that. Just wear jeans. Anyway, with that said, let's jump into the news, starting with this.
We can only lose the Midterms, if we allow ourselves to lose the midterms, if we are foolish, stupid, and unwise.
Oh my God, I think we got him. 3 strikes and you're out, buddy. If you're foolish, stupid, and unwise, bing, bing, bop, boop, bop. Yeah, so jokes aside, and Donald Trump is foolish, he's stupid, he's unwise, he'll never learn. That is revelatory when he says, if we can pass this SAVE Act, then we'll never lose elections. We don't need to come up with a new policy, new rhetoric, new candidates, anything. All we need to do is clamp down on voting and make it harder for people to vote. And then we'll never lose for 100 years. Ignore the fact that Democrats and Republicans have gone back and forth in wins throughout American history. You've never really had a dynasty that lasts a long time. That's just always been the inalienable truth of America or whatever. But no, from now on, it's only ever gonna be Republicans, and all we need to do is stop the mail-in ballots. Makes a ton of sense, I'm sure. Anyway, he expands on his idea here.
But if we terminate the filibuster, as we should do, and immediately vote for the Save America Act, then we will not lose an election for 100 years.
Yeah, and that's all it takes. So pass this bill. And by the way, the bill, they love to talk about how popular it is or whatever, and yet they would literally have to end the filibuster to get it through. If it's so popular, then why don't Democrats feel more pressure to change it? I mean, it is common sense, we keep getting told. The reality is that the popularity of a bill has nothing to do with really whether it gets through. There's all sorts of popular things I can propose that they would literally never pass. They don't feel any need to do things based on if they're popular. They do things for their own selfish reasons. This is a great example of that. Now, it's been stopped multiple times. Mike Johnson is saying that they will pass it one more time in a reconciliation bill. They've already been told that they can't do that. The parliamentarian has already said, reconciliation, you cannot do non-budgetary things, or else you just pass everything through reconciliation. And that's what they try to do, but they're not allowed to do it. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be stopped again. It's possible that considering the stakes, they might, I don't know, shoot the parliamentarian, do some crazy thing to get it through. I don't know. What's fascinating though is Mike Johnson postures as this is such an important thing that we have to do. And yet when facing the most basic follow-up question, he's got nothing. So he was asked, can you give one example of fraud in a previous election that the Save America Act would stop? And he said, look, we're not gonna litigate all that. But you're trying to. He's not willing to litigate it. He just wants to massively change the law as if they had litigated it and it had proven them right. But let's skip that because he knows that it's bullcrap. He knows that it's baseless. JR, what do you think? Do you think they have a chance?
They always try to. This is the way these guys operate. Mike Johnson's like, he puts shoes on his knees. He walks around so much underneath Donald Trump's ass. So by the way, I'm not sure how people don't understand how desperate this looks. I feel like people actually do understand. There's like 2 groups of people. Everything Donald Trump and this MAGA Republican Party says is obviously a lie, is obviously trying to trigger some kind of rigging of the system in this particular case. And it's people who either are against it or are for it. No one's fooled into these beliefs and this propaganda that he pushes all the time, talking about how we have to eliminate the filibuster, pass the SAVE Act. It's the only way we can actually win. Oddly, I thought Donald Trump keeps telling us he has a mandate. He was overwhelmingly voted into office. The American people love him. Not to believe all the polls that say that they're about to get their asses handed to them. Not to believe the polls that say that everybody who supports him is hated in this country. Not to believe the polls that everyone's against all of his stupid policies and agendas. But for some reason, he needs extra help in changing the way that our election system goes so they can disenfranchise even more people because everybody loves him. None of it makes any sense. I thought everyone loved you. I thought your policies are benefiting everyone. I thought this is the golden age. I thought everyone's got more money ever than they ever had in their lives. I thought manufacturing is coming. I thought factories are popping up all over the country. Somehow, even though all that great stuff is happening, people are still gonna vote you out, and you need to go through all of these hurdles just to keep people from voting. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and look, if the Save America Act is needed because you guys are really popular, but all the illegals steal it, even though they can't show 3 cases of fraud, let alone a critical mass that would actually swamp the elections or whatever, then why are you so wildly unpopular in all the polls? Donald Trump, the Republican Party, why are you so wildly and increasingly unpopular. Again, I hate what they have done to our country in getting people to not trust anything, to just believe that whatever makes you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum has got to be true. Bad news stories obviously aren't true if they make you feel bad. The polls, if they make you feel bad, they're not true. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I wish that we could get back to a healthier place where we can acknowledge. Like, by the way, like when I see like a poll of 2028 Democratic primary, early polls or whatever, and I see that AOC is at like 8% and Kamala Harris is at like 27%. Do you think for a second that I think that the poll's lying? Seriously, no. That doesn't mean that I'm willing to just say give it to Kamala Harris or whatever. But the just assumption that anything that doesn't stroke your hair and make you feel better and then hand you a s'mores or something has to be untrue is baby-brained nonsense. And I hate how it's been normalized for full-grown adults to pretend to believe that. Anyway, we're gonna set that aside. We're gonna see what happens with the SAVE Act. We need to talk about another story that I'm sure Donald Trump would love if you never paid attention to, but we're not gonna allow that to happen. Let's jump into this. The Epstein cover-up continues, this time with open defiance of a judge's order. And this directly relates, by the way, to the accusations that were made against Donald Trump by the woman who alleges that he assaulted her when she was only 13 years old. So we reported last month when US District Judge Emmett Sullivan sided with the independent journalist Katie Fang after she had filed a lawsuit accusing the Trump regime of violating the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which the president reluctantly signed into law last year, basically saying there's all these documents that are supposed to be released by law. You're not doing it, so you have to do it. And the judge agreed and said you have to release these things and gave the administration until Thursday to respond. So on Thursday night, Associate US Attorney General Stanley Woodward wrote that the government is, quote, committed to transparency and compliance, sure, but strongly disagrees with the judge's order. But see, like that's just like your opinion, man. You can disagree with it. Okay, cry me a river and then give me the documents. They're not doing that. They're just refusing to do what the judge said. That is how critical they see you not getting these notes about the 13-year-old's allegations against Donald Trump. So they say they don't believe they violated the act by withholding materials from the public. Again, that's an opinion. It doesn't matter. The judge said you had to hand them in. I'm not interested. Like, yeah, you go to a therapist and talk about your emotions and all of that and how you process that. That's a you thing. That's an internal thing. Hand over the goddamn documents. Or to US District Judge Emmett Sullivan, I would say, lock the Associate Attorney General up. If he's telling you, I'm not gonna do what you said, I'm not gonna give you the documents, there need to be consequences for that. But anyway, let's talk about their argument for why they don't have to hand in these documents. So they say, as will become apparent, it would contravene the settled application of the law for the department to produce unredacted versions of many of the records at hand, and nothing requires that result. Except, of course, the act that we're talking about, the judge's order. I would probably throw common decency in too. All of those require you to hand over these documents, but you're not because you're a part of the cover-up. You're protecting elite sex predators. We understand. And so here's a few other things that they refuse to give, or their arguments they're giving. So interview notes from investigators who spoke to the woman who made the claims against Trump were, quote, deemed duplicative of the typewritten reports memorializing the interviews. So they're implying this isn't actually new material. It's just the same thing as these typewritten reports. But if that was so, why would you be fighting to not give them to us? You could just unredact them and they'd be the same, and that would be it. You're acting as if they're very much not the same. Okay, other documents were redacted to protect the names of survivors, including communications that can appear disturbing on their face. So first of all, the Transparency Act says that you do not have to reveal the names of the survivors very clearly. Every time the administration says we're trying to protect the identity of the survivors, they are trying to protect the identities of the perpetrators. Every single goddamn time, that's what it's been. And they're specifically saying, well, if you saw this stuff, it looks disturbing on its face. Yeah, that's kind of the point. I think we deserve to know about that. But again, the concern from the point of view of the administration is protecting Donald Trump's friends in the Epstein class. That is what it always has been, and it's still like 14 months into this thing, that's still what they're doing. And by the way, they also say, we couldn't find an unredacted version of the 2007 draft indictment from federal prosecutors in Florida, where he pleaded guilty to lesser charges in what was a very controversial deal? We can't find it anymore. Shucks, I would have loved to have given that to you, but it's just, what are you gonna do? You don't get to find out any more about how that shady deal was made. All of this is totally not suspicious, Jayar. What do you think?
I'm just wondering what happened to the law and order in this country. So anytime that they're forced to do things legally, which has been like the 8th time regarding this case, they just go no. That's all, and then no, because we've got control of the police. We've got control of the Department of Justice. We've got Donald Trump's personal attorney running the place. By the way, let's not forget, if a double murderer was caught on video killing 2 people and they're on the run, and then the police go, we have a warrant out for this man's arrest. His face is clearly here. He lives here and he's on the run. In fact, he got away from one particular moment. Would you think that this double murderer could put out a statement that says, I just strongly disagree with their warrant, that they're chasing me down? I disagree with it. You can disagree with it all you want, bro. You still did it. You're still breaking the law, and you still need to bring your ass in. But somehow they think we're supposed to buy this, see them completely throw middle fingers at the law every day, constantly, since December 19th, by the way, which is when this first was supposed to start, with them revealing all this information, and we're just supposed to go along with it. And instead, we find ourselves even in these kinds of conversations, John, fighting, or not even fighting, discussing, analyzing about how they're breaking the law, how much they should break the law next after they've broken it for the past several months, and whether or not this is all on the up and up. Bro, they're breaking the law. There's no other discussion to be had. Why aren't we doing something about them breaking the law? They're breaking the law. In case we don't know this, they're breaking the law. But we're not even thinking about that. We're too busy saying, here's what they said about them breaking the law. They're breaking the law, bro. It's constant. It's constant.
Start locking them up. There has to be consequences for this, or else don't bother giving us the decision in the first place. Okay, we're gonna take our second break. Lots more to get to after this. The DOJ, the FBI, probably the CIA, they're gonna have to be cleaned out after this. I mean, it's just been stacked with Trump lawyers or whatever. And you might say, well, what's the difference once Donald Trump's out of power? But again, they don't want him to be pursued, or his family, or his friends. They're loyalists to that entire movement.
In other words, do what they were doing. Clean house with all of the actual swamp creatures, the deep state that they kept saying exists.
And bring back career experts, people with actual institutional knowledge. Do what all the companies firing people over AI are having to do when they realize, oh wait, actually this stuff can't do anything. Let's bring some humans back into it. Okay, let's see, get to some comments. Actually, let's jump down to Twitch to start. Let's see. Danger Mouse 17 has been here for 60 months, says celebrating 5 full years with my TYT family. Love you guys and hope everyone had a good holiday weekend despite the hellhole this country has become. I hope you have as well. Jayar, did you do anything for the holidays?
No, I don't remember anything. So it must have been nothing, bro.
Oh.
Yeah.
I made bacon wrapped hot dogs, and we got a little inflatable pool for the backyard that my daughter was in love with and wanted to spend literally hours in. So that was fun.
Did you grill like a real American?
I mean, it was on a grill, yeah. I did. No doubt if I ever run for Senate, they're gonna pretend that I'm a vegan. But no, I made kielbasa and bacon wrapped hot dogs on a grill. Do me. Anyway, let's see. And I took my daughter to the aquarium, and the entire ride there, she was yelling that she didn't want me to go. So that was fun.
Oh, Long Beach?
Yeah.
That's a dope aquarium.
She just wanted her granny there. No, Papa, no, Papa.
John, you could have just gone and hung out in Long Beach. You could be like, cool, roll with him. I'll be back.
I told him I'll stand 20 feet away, but that wasn't sufficient. I had to take her to McDonald's to placate her. Then she accepted my presence. Anyway, being a dad is fun. Yvette Sweet, member for 20 months, says, check your voter registration. Make sure that you register to vote for November 2026. Great point. And also check to see you might still be in a state that has primaries or whatever, special elections, all of that stuff. Master Dragon sent a gift membership. Thank you, Master Dragons. Very nice of you. Let's see. Eric the Red, I think it's the Red Cutoff, sent a super chat with no message, but it was just a nice super chat message. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Simon Moody says 11 other players so far have had red cards. Did any of their national leaders whine to FIFA, want their teams to get exceptions? I don't know because I haven't been following it. It's also possible, by the way, that this was the least justifiable red card call. That's possible or whatever. Again, nuance exists in the real world. But yeah, you cannot deny that this opens up. Like a lot of people will say that like if they win, that this was why, that it was corrupt, that it's tainted or whatever, which kind of sucks. Especially because so far as we know, the players have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
It's not like they asked for it. They're just trying their heart out to like kick the ball or whatever it is that they do. They're just trying to do their thing, and occasionally flop for some reason.
John, have you heard of a yellow card before?
I have heard of them. Anyway. Okay, Dex says, JR, please stop bombarding me with facts and logic. You're overloaded and miss circuits.
It sucks.
Okay, let's see. Winston Smith says, how about bringing up our racist present or president? Dragonfart says, so the 160 years of the KKK was just Antifa the whole time. I'm sure they'll claim it. Well, they say that it was Democrats because of course, realignment and all that. It's never them. Even when they love what's happening, it's never technically them. Okay, everybody, you know what you can do? Let's say you've got a family and let's say you've got little kids and let's say like most people in this world, they're addicted to their phones. You can actually try to reward your entire family, not only with good mobile service, but also by using their phones less by setting up a Noble mobile account. You can get a family plan. They're offering up to $20 in cash back at the same time. You can track your brain rot index, as we've been saying. We've been focusing mainly on how you can sort of free yourself up digitally a little bit, but it can actually apply to your entire family. So something to look into. Same great Noble coverage, unlimited data, half the cost of the big guys. All the information is available at tyt.com/switch. Okay, with that said, let's talk about someone who we haven't had much cause to discuss in quite some time. Karoline Leavitt has been back to work for only about 2 weeks so far at this point, but that's all the time it took for her to stick her foot all the way in her mouth with these completely out of touch comments that she made about Gen Z. Take a look.
Some of these kids, and I call them kids because they're in their 20s, and they've never had real jobs and they're complaining things are expensive. Yes, things are expensive when you don't have a real job.
That's right.
Do you think that's getting traction, complaining?
Unfortunately, I do, because this generation, my generation, I hate to say it, Gen Z and those younger than me have been raised with just silver spoons in their mouths, just getting everything handed to them. That's not the values this country was built on. It was built on meritocracy and hard work, pulling up your sleeves, pulling yourself up from your bootstraps.
Okay, so she, of course, just had a kid that now is part of that generation that they're implying if you ever complain about the state of the economy, an economy that her president has helped to wreck, you're lazy, you're entitled, you have a silver spoon in your mouth, okay? And I love to hear from Jesse Waters, these kids have never had a real job. Tell me more, Jesse Waters, about the hard, grueling manual labor that you've done throughout your career. When you spent years going to college campuses and then doing lazy interviews with those same college kids so that Bill O'Reilly could, back then, smear younger people. At least he's been consistent in his career. The issue is that the people who are watching that interview that you just saw are on average 84 years old, and they and their kids and their kids' kids are all hurting economically. So to be told that it's just entitlement, it's just laziness from young people, I don't know that that message necessarily plays to somebody who's like 54 and maybe is really bothered by the fact that inflation is getting worse and worse. I don't know, but maybe they can distract them by putting it all onto Gen Z. Take a look.
Is it laziness?
A little bit.
Is it because the professors said the country's corrupt, it's evil, and we just need to shake them down and hand money out?
It's laziness and it's the liberal indoctrination. You bring up a great point about our education system. However, I will say a silver lining, so many parents that I talk to across the country are homeschooling, are turning to private education, are turning towards Christian schools across the country because they don't want their children being taught these communist and liberal ideas slammed down their throat.
I say, if they misbehave, just make all these young kids join the army, right? Shape them up. I almost had
to. Or send them to Cuba. Send them to Iran. They'll want want to come back real quick.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody ever complains about the state of the country, they should obviously be exiled, like Donald Trump, when he's calling it an asshole and all that stuff. Again, the hypocrisy has been pointed out many times. So yeah, get rid of them. And it's just like the casual disdain. I wonder why younger people don't support the president anymore. Watching a video like that, I wonder why they're hurting in the polls with those people. But anyway, that was such a poorly received message from Karoline Leavitt that she had to try to explain herself. And she did so with this, which I'm happy for you, or I'm sorry for what you're going through. I don't know. I don't have time to read all that. That's absolutely ridiculous. This is longer than the article I released on Substack last week. I'm literally not even going to read that. That's insane. And the thrust of it is, you guys don't know the context of what I'm saying, or what I was saying. We showed you like a minute and a half of her talking there. She called you lazy and entitled. She implied that you should be fine with the fact that inflation is out of control. You should be fine with the fact that Donald Trump won't pass this housing bill, that he puts tariffs on things, making consumer prices more expensive. You should be fine with all this stuff. You just need to work harder. And you should be told that by people who, one, married a geriatric to make her way through the world, and Jesse Waters has never done an honest day's work his entire life. The two people least well positioned to make that case are telling you that you're lazy. It's weird that people are bothered by that, JR.
Remember, am I in? Yeah.
I hear you.
Remember they were all mad at Hillary Clinton for a basket of deplorables? Deplorables.
Oh my God,
These guys go on tirades every day talking down to the American people. Every day they call them names. Every day they call people that are in opposition to them. What did Pete Hegseth call a bunch of folks that were chanting and mad at him just last week? He and Stephen Miller standing out there in DC getting booed and jeered, and sirens getting played from people's bullhorns. They call people names all the time, degenerates or something like that. They're constantly calling people names, but then they expect people to now respond to them saying, calling folks lazy and entitled and born with silver spoons in their mouths. Can we talk about that? How is it that all of these kids, as they're calling them, are born with silver spoons in their mouths, when last I heard, Donald Trump has been the only savior president we've ever had in the last 50 or 60 years that has done anything to save our economy? If our economy has sucked so much and Donald Trump is the only person that's done everything decent for it, wouldn't all these kids not have silver spoons because they'd be destitute under poor ass parents who couldn't do anything? Or maybe they're talking down to middle class and poor folks, and actually all the rich people that Karoline Leavitt said are now going to private schools because they believe the same things Karoline Leavitt and Jesse Waters believe in are now going to private schools. Private schools where rich people go to because they got money to do it. Yeah. Or they might be conservative Republicans who are connected and go to private schools to keep their kids from other folks because they're bigoted. It's an outside chance that it might be that.
I love how fast the pivot from they're being indoctrinated to you should take them to, like, you should have them only read the books that you allow produced by radical Christian publishing houses and all that. Again, and they're being told that by literally a liar for the president. Her entire job is just to lie for the president. You're gonna tell me about propaganda. And Jesse Waters of Fox News, yes, tell me more about indoctrination and all of that. And she's worried about them being born with a silver spoon. The president that she works for was born into a wealthy family. He is the least in touch, like elite president that we've ever had in our life, who constantly tells us that inflation is nothing, gas price increases are peanuts, the housing bill's a yawn. He keeps telling you he's not going to help you. And so he has to dispatch his chief liar to tell you that the problem isn't that Donald Trump doesn't care about you and will never do anything to benefit you. It's that you're not working hard enough. Okay, we'll see if that works in the midterms. Let's jump now into one final story. Ron Desantis is still very much on his BS down in Florida, hoping to distract his state with more culture war fascist crap. This time by following Donald Trump by designating multiple groups as official terror groups, including at least one that doesn't actually exist, so that's fun. So now terror groups in Florida include the Muslim Civil Rights Organization, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, the Muslim Brotherhood, Antifa, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as well as a number of groups that are affiliated with drug cartels. So some of these are very, very bold moves by a very bold man. So I think Iran is actually doomed now that Ron DeSantis has told the IRGC that they're bad, he doesn't like them. That's it for Iran. They're done. Ron DeSantis, it's a major breakthrough. Thank you. The bigger issue for me, like we can set aside the rising Islamophobia. It's an obvious issue. We've talked about it a lot in Texas. The Republicans seem to think that just, attacking people for being Muslim, that's like the way of the future or whatever again. But like this is actually consequential when it comes to Antifa. So state law requires that for Florida to deem an organization a terrorist group, the group must commit either a violent crime or a computer crime intended to intimidate, injure, or coerce a civilian population. But again, Antifa isn't a group. It doesn't exist as a group. It doesn't have a membership. It doesn't have a leadership. It doesn't have a headquarters. It's not a thing. It's just like a loose affiliation. So it literally cannot abide by the state law in that case to call them terrorists. But so what's the point of this? Why do this? Well, I have an idea. So under the bill, state designated terrorist groups would be prohibited from getting any public money. College students who support terrorist organizations would be immediately expelled. So I don't think that Antifa is worried about not getting state money for college. Again, it doesn't exist. But what about the individual? What does it mean to support a group that isn't a group? You can't be a member of it because it doesn't have membership. You can't be a part of leadership because it doesn't have leadership. But I can hazard a guess, if you were to, for instance, tweet that fascism is bad, if you were to put on Instagram that you don't like our fascist federal government, well, maybe they would say, well, you're against fascism, that's Antifa. Boom, you get kicked out of college. Forget the free speech stuff, they never meant that. They're not interested in the First Amendment or anything like that. But it leaves us in an interesting place where if you, for instance, retweet a Patriot Front call to murder Democratic politicians, or maybe you liked Elon Musk's recent tweet saying that politicians that let migrants in should be executed by vigilantes or whatever, that's fine. If you like, one of these other neo-Nazi groups saying that, the Jews will not replace us or whatever, that's fine. You will not get in trouble with Florida for that. But like if you say that fascism is bad, you could potentially be kicked out of college or whatever. Like that is the state of your freedoms and civil liberties in Florida right now. And I have to assume, JR, this is Ron DeSantis gearing up for another presidential run. He thinks this is the thing that I guess is going to put him on the national map again. What do you think?
Yeah, it's sad the way these guys operate. Look, they keep doing this, but the thing is, I feel like the next terror group is going to be like people that MAGA deems having Trump derangement syndrome. They make it up. Why would I make that up too? It's one of their favorite lines. Anybody who thinks this way and is against what these fascists are trying to implement and push on people are anti-fascist, therefore they're against this country. What admission that you're a fascist-run country. I feel like we should listen to them every once in a while when they tell us exactly who are. By the way, whole thing about kicking college students out, they did a test run already. We saw it happening as soon as they got in. When they started running folks out of college, that was the purpose. This is how they're gonna try and do it further with more fake reasons why they're doing it. Everything has been tested as an example born, an illustration, and they're just trying to make it more streamlined and normalized in the country.
Yeah, 100%. Such nonsense. Okay, well, unfortunately, that's it for the first hour of the show, but we do have a lot more to talk about in the aftermath, including Donald Trump once again being driven into a thirsty frenzy by Taylor Swift. We'll have all that and more after this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. I just saw a little news update. Mitch McConnell's office won't confirm if he's conscious. And I know that like HuffPost has to word it that way, but like, can we use some common sense? If they won't confirm that he's conscious, he's not conscious. That's what that means. Because if he was conscious, they'd confirm it because that would be good news. That's just how that worked. I know that it's technically speculation. I don't think Mitch McConnell's gonna be around that much longer.
I think he's not around now. Anyways.
He might not be around now.
By the way, you guys, really fast, I'm sorry to interrupt this further. Desiree Townsend has been literally like staked out in front of this hospital reporting on it. She's like some independent reporter. I think she leans right. She's a little bit MAGA. But
really?
On this, she's been like balls to the wall going crazy. Like she's been reporting the way reporters would report about something that's not being revealed, and she's been all over it. Find her.
Okay, I'm gonna have to see it. Yeah, by the way, I'm tempted in advance of the thing happening. I feel like there's that line of whether you have to be like, oh no, that's. I feel like Mitch McConnell's on the bad side of the line. Am I wrong about that?
John, you're not wrong about that. If anybody watches the stream that I do every day, they're gonna be offended by the things I've said about Mitch McConnell.
I don't put a lot of people on that side, but I feel like Mitch McConnell's on that side. I would be curious if we could do like a Twitch poll or something, because I feel like he earned whatever I choose to say. But anyway, not as much as Trump, but he learned it. He earned it. Anyway,
John, I feel like you have a book written ready to go on this guy.
Let's see. No books written. Although I did, as I said, I published an article on Substack called "The Lame Ducking of Donald Trump," available at johniadarola.substack.com. And AJ Nestor says John's Substack article is excellent. Check it out later. I was actually very proud of it. I write a lot, but I think it's pretty good actually. So go check it out. You can follow. It's all free, by the way. It's available to everybody. Anyway, with that said, let's jump into more news. Everybody's got a take on Taylor Swift's big Madison Square Garden wedding, but whatever you've heard, I bet it's not nearly as strange as this thirsty ass tweet from the White House, where they just show like the big like LED signs outside of Madison Square Garden saying Trump is your president, and they say it's happened. So like, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer or a Buzz Killington, but what is that? What is this even supposed to be? Like, you guys want to be relevant, and you're not. And I know that it burns Trump that he wasn't invited and he'd never be invited. And in that building at that moment are more A-listers than literally every single event Donald Trump has thrown in his entire life combined. So that's gotta bother them. But what is like the internal logic of this meme? That Taylor Swift would want people outside of the event to know that Trump is like, that's not pointing in. It's not like the celebs are seeing that. It's just stupid. It's just sad and thirsty and needy that you guys have to be involved in something that is miles away from you culturally. You've lost all of your cultural power, and I think it's dawning on you. That said, that's the White House. Now, you said Trump was thirsty, right, John? No, Trump is thirsty. Trump has Taylor Swift living rent-free in his brain, as he will demonstrate.
You know who the #1 person in TikTok is by far? Trump, me. I just got, I'm #1. Like Taylor Swift was #11. I'm #1 in TikTok by far.
Now, I had to check the numbers because I don't follow the trends on TikTok that much. But no, that's not true. He's not #1. She's not #11. These are just made up numbers. There's this Senegalese Italian influencer who's #1 with like 162 million followers. Trump has 1/10 of that. So he is by far not #1. BTS is 10th, and they're way more popular than him. So not only is he lying about being the most popular, but also he compares himself to #11 because it's Taylor Swift. He desperately has to believe that he's more popular than Taylor Swift. And it comes out of such left field that I took a screenshot from the video of when he says it. And look at the faces there. That woman is like, what is going on? The guy's looking to the side like he can't believe. First of all, he's probably thinking about the Tic Tac thing, but all of this is just so strange. He's the president of the United States, and he is jealous of a young musician, a woman's success in the world. It's so strange. But let's return to the bender that Donald Trump has been on social media himself, because he posted like 100 times on the 4th of July. It's just conspiracy theories and memes and AI slop or whatever. And if you thought that he was gonna post like 100 times and none of them are gonna be explicitly racist, you don't understand how statistics work. So he posted this because in addition to Taylor Swift, the Obamas continue to live rent free in his brain. Obama was president 35 years ago, and Trump is still implying, hey, look at them. Weren't they ghetto or whatever? Look at them with their spray paint, and look, we put Allahu Akbar written in Arabic at the bottom there. Because I remember when I said he's a Muslim. Remember that? This is Donald Trump has everything that he has said he's ever wanted in his life. He has power, he has riches. He made $2 billion last year, and he spent some of his time posting an image about how Obama's black or something. I don't know, JR. It's a weird life, man. Evidently, billions of dollars are not as satisfying as you or I might imagine.
Yeah, it really goes to show you. I've always wondered this. Someone was saying this, and it really made me think about it. In what circumstances and experiences are these types, considering Donald Trump at the top of it, MAGA types, are they ever like happy? Like, are they around each other? And whenever they blow up some Bud Light bottles because a trans woman was once an online like an advertiser for them, and then they go back to drinking it. Are they happy then? Are they happy when they're saying racist things? Are they happy when they're marching on Washington with face masks on? When are they happy? What is it that they see in life where they go, huh, it's a good day? Because as soon as they see something they good, they go right back to saying how much they hate someone else for not liking what they like or who they are or what they're about, that they're trying to push on everyone else. These are like the most unhappy people. They keep saying take America back from them as they have America. There's never anything. Their existence is based in hatred, dishonesty, like anger, savagery, violence. It's who they are. It's who they are. And in order to be a part of this like cabal of idiots, you have to be a hateful person. Hate is it's what they thrive off of. But by the way, the whole thing about Taylor Swift, he's trying to siphon some energy off of anything. I thought people were hating on this event, by the way. People dislike all of the extravagance of the Taylor Swift and the Travis Kelce stuff. So I'm not sure why he's trying to, like, people don't like it already. You should be celebrating it. I mean, not everyone, but some people are like, oh, look at this BS. Who cares about Taylor and Travis, right? Just enjoy it for a second. People don't like it.
Instead, he goes on Twitter to remind people that like, oh yeah, no, I hate Trump more, actually. He doesn't even know the right Taylor. Pop culture stuff to jump into. But anyway, this is how he's spending his time. Man, if I had made $2 billion last year, you wouldn't see me on social media. I would be off creating my own Shire-themed golf course where behind every bunker is a tiny little apartment that you can go into to get fresh baked bread, maybe a little wine, smoke some pipe weed. You never see my face again, okay? But he's doing this, and not just this. I'm gonna read one more thing out to you. So you might recall that a couple of weeks ago, he began a feud with the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. He said that she begged him for a photo at some event they were at. And then she came out and said, he's making that up. I didn't actually do that. And so he began viciously attacking her. This is a microcosm for how he's always related to women. He lies about them, he abuses them in some way. And when they stand up for themselves, they become his main target. So he's still doing it. 3 weeks later, he just randomly posted this: restraining order needed. Can't you see? She's obsessed with me. Because I made up a story about her that she denied, and weeks later, I'm still posting about her. Isn't she a stalker? Anyway, this is how he's spending the last year and a half of his life. Weird choices. Anyway, with that said, let's move into some other news. We got 2 more fun stories for you. Let's jump into this. Republican Congress people would probably swear that they're patriots, but their patriotism, I don't know, is not what I imagined it would be. It feels kind of dark, actually. I want to demonstrate it with Troy Nels, fresh off of his screw affordability, I'm gonna eat lobster and steak thing. He decided to one-up himself with this.
We gotta put a bed sheet, a big bed sheet over the Statue of Liberty. 10 years. 10-year moratorium on immigration. No more We have to get this under control. We got to have a 10-year moratorium on immigration. So we got to have a freeze, put a bed sheet over the Statue of Liberty.
Why a
Instead
bed
of
sheet?
having a bed sheet, because she's going to need to go to sleep for a while. She got to go to sleep for a while because we're not letting anybody in anymore.
Well, some people think a bed sheet.
We got. Well, I'm not saying it's dead. What I'm trying to say is that instead of having a torch, maybe it needs a stop sign. Maybe we need a little bit of a stop sign.
Yeah, you were probably already under the assumption that this guy's not that intelligent, creative, charismatic, anything. The sort of thing that you'd think you'd need to be at least one of those to get elected to Congress. He's not. So yeah, he wants to pull a bed sheet over the Statue of Liberty. As the reporters started to get in, that's what you do when someone's dead, not when they're sleeping. That's not how people sleep. But the imagery also works for other things, as Dane points out. I could see the right liking the bed sheet over the Statue of Liberty, maybe. And anyway, this is something that they return to frequently on the right. After Zoran Mamdani won, Marjorie Greene posted this, an image of a burqa on the Statue of Liberty saying, "This hits hard." And as the saying goes, I bet it does if you're a complete moron. Anyway, so so Zoran Mamdani would put a sheet over it because he's an Islamist, even though he's not, and he doesn't believe in any of that stuff. Whatever, we'll pretend that they're all the same or whatever. And now Troy Nehls wants to do the same thing, but presumably he's not bad. Zoran Mamdani's bad for covering up the Statue of Liberty, not Troy Nehls. And also ignore the fact that she's an enthusiastic part of the party, or at least was up until recently, that stripped away bodily autonomy, tries to restrict the rights and freedoms and liberties of women in a million different ways, has way more ideologically and philosophically in common with radical Islam's control of women than anything approaching the Democratic Party in America. But yeah, all of this is really cool and totally normal, well-functioning political party. Jayar, what do you think?
It's by the way, the whole thing about the similarities between radical Islam and the way that they manipulate the religion to try and do whatever, it's just like the parallels are always right in front of our faces. But Troy Nehls walks around on his knees so much, like I feel like he's trying to go over the top even further every time he speaks. Like he came down those stairs, and those guys, I think it was Midas Touch guys, are asking a lot of elected representatives stuff about affordability, things about general things they've asked these folks. And this guy went into those tirades. This is before the 4th of July weekend, right? And he mentioned how he's going to be doing all this lobster eating, and didn't give a damn about anybody else. Like he just launches into these thoughts and these hateful, diatribes about how much he's better than other folks. Donald Trump is the best thing since sliced bread, he literally said. The second coming of Jesus, not exaggerating. And now we have to cover the Statue of Liberty. He has no shame. That's why he's leaving Congress. I think his twin brother is gonna try and run and take his spot. His main #1 job is to walk around and kiss Donald Trump's ass. That's what he's been reduced to. That's what people who, Illinois, I'm not sure this guy's from, Texas. That's what the people who elected him have to deal with, is listen to him literally make his entire approach and his entire agenda based off of kissing Donald Trump's ass. Man, what a disservice that they've got.
Yeah. Oh, everything's bigger in Texas, including the fascist butt licking, I guess. Sorry, I mean boo. I said a different thing. I meant boo. Anyway, but look, this is what Texas has. Ted Cruz. They had John Cornyn. Now they're gonna maybe have Ken Paxton, Troy. These are the sorts of men, very much in quotation. See, Trump, I'm gonna teach you how to use quotation marks. I mean it, for these men that they elect. They're all pathetic. They're not intelligent. They're not leaders. How do you elect this slate of losers to represent you? And it's a big state. They've got millions and millions of guys that could potentially run or whatever. I'm not even going to imply that they'd elect a woman, but like they could have somebody, and instead they choose these pathetic guys who just bow down to other losers. Anyway, let's jump into one more story. Donald Trump had yet another lie exposed in his 24/7 HGTV style remake of the White House. See, he told reporters back in March that he would personally cover the cost of redoing a walkway between the Oval Office and the White House residence. Asked who was paying for it, he paused before answering, paid for by me. Now, that might not have left you with much confidence that he was actually going to do that. And if so, you're a savvy news consumer, because he didn't pay for it. He was lying. This walkway that is basically just for him He's not going to pay for it, even though he's the one that wants it changed. No, the National Park Service paid for it. It cost taxpayers $689,232. With related masonry work and repairs, the total reached $1.3 million. $1.3 million so that he could walk on other rock, not that rock, this rock. I want a different rock to walk on. I'm going to spend $1.3 million. Meanwhile, they are cutting spending on basically everything that they can come up with that could benefit you, your family, your community. But he wanted different stone. You see, he cares about style. It's aesthetics that he cares about. It's a great contrast, he said. The white walls with the black. The black is gonna be on the walkway. It's gonna be clean. The thing I do best, it's gonna be beautiful. It's a beautiful black granite. So it's the thing he does best. Having someone else install a walkway, you're multi-talented or whatever. But that's why it had to be. He wanted contrast, you see. He couldn't just walk on low contrast granite. He needs new stuff. And this has become obviously a trend, but a significant one. The Atlantic reported that taxpayer spending on national capital region projects has increased 92% over the past year, while more than 900 Park Service projects expected to receive funding this year got no money. So all these Park Service projects from around the country, there's no money for it. The sorts of things that you and your family might go to, the national parks, little regional things, there's no money for it. But I need there to be gold on that horse. I need there to be contrast with my walkway. I need columns, I need whatever. I need 47 maple trees. Every day he just walks out and just looks at a thing and figures out how to spend $1 million replacing it with a similar thing. That's how it works. And prepare yourself for one more update. Prepare yourself also for the literal definition of insanity as Doug Burgum announces who they're gonna be going with to fix the reflecting pool again.
We'll use the same company because they did a fantastic job. I mean, even with this damage of the gash that we're talking about, you're talking about, again, this is the size of 8 football fields. It is 8 acres, and we're talking about like 0.001%. Thankfully, the vandalism was small. It was bad. I mean, it could be cost tens of thousands of dollars to repair. So then it could fall into a felony thing, just like damaging any other government property could. But it is this is the job that was done to fix the reflecting pool was done extremely well.
Yeah, it was done so extremely well that algae began developing literally instantly, and the entire thing fell apart, forcing them to come up with this vandalism thing, which despite the fact that 5 people have been arrested, I wanna remind you, no evidence whatsoever of vandalism has been presented at all. It's made up. Doug Burgum knows it's made up. We haven't come up with a better term, but kayfabe is what it is. It's the made up, it's the fictional storyline of the presidency. We're gonna pretend that the vandalism happened. And the vandalism, by the way, simultaneously is significant enough that it's a felony, so we're gonna lock them up for a long time. But also it was 0.001%. But also that 0.001% is why algae happened, even though the floor thing wouldn't even lead to algae. None of this makes sense. So the only thing that does make sense is that they're going with the same company again. Because you see how it works. They gave a Trump donor a $13 million contract to do shoddy work that fell apart instantly. And now they're gonna give him millions more dollars to repair the bad job that he did in the first place. But what do they care? It's not their money, it's our money. It's our tax dollars, once again going to a Trump donor to personally enrich them. And it will fall apart again, JR. There will be algae again. And so there will have to be more vandalism again until the end of time. What do you think?
I mean, they keep going with this. I feel like even over the 4th of July weekend, which was, I think, really one of the reflecting pool there, it was still fenced off. I'm not in the DC.
As far as I know, it is still fenced off to right now.
Great job, because by the way, that was the culmination. Is anybody gonna mention that failure over on that side too? There were a lot of people who are professionals in this field, as far as whatever they were trying to put down, that speculated multiple different ways of the reasons why it peeled up and was not cut, obviously. They might be listening to some of those people who said they should have prepared it differently and they should have done it this way and used that type of material, and they might go that route now and then claim that, look, Look what we did. We're the best ever. They keep going down these same roads. But also the main reason why Donald Trump thinks that he's like that our money is his is because he keeps stealing our money. So when he says things like, I'm gonna pay for the walkway with the beautiful black granite, it's because he thinks our money's his. And every time he said he's gonna give $2,000 to folks for tariff relief or $1,776 to veterans, whatever he was saying and lying about, he thinks he's got control of our money, therefore it's his. Because he thinks, he's a king, and then he takes our money and then spends it whatever way he wants to. So he was, in his brain, he was being very honest. He goes, yeah, I'm gonna spend my money on the walkway. The money that I have at my discretion to use any kind of way that I want to, yours. It's how he operates. And I guess until we decide to stop letting this thief take our money, he's just gonna keep operating that way. So
yeah, I hate it. I hate there's so many things he does that can you imagine if the first woman president was just only concerned with decorating the White House? We make that point a lot. But none of this has seemingly gotten through. We point out when things do get through. Inflation has gotten through. The Epstein thing got through. Iran was really frustrating to the right. But the fact that he is just blowing through money in beautifying DC or whatever, a city that they're not gonna go to, it's just strange that it doesn't go through, let alone the extra level of the corruption, the breaking the law, the constant lying about these projects. None of it seems to bother the right. Anyway, that's gonna be it for today's show, JR. Ending on a bit of a down note, I apologize. But thank you for being here as always. Where do people see you next?
The watch party, you guys, every day. It's noon Eastern. We lead right into this here show here, John. Yes. And it's fun times every day.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And for everybody out there, big week planned, full week. We're gonna do 5 shows. It feels like we haven't done that in a bit. So definitely stay tuned. Brett is gonna be gone for a little bit, so we're gonna have special guests joining us on the next couple of Fridays. So we'll have a special little surprise treat for you to look forward to. But for now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.